Any amendments to the agenda, David?
I think only one would be maybe that we might indicate to the public about the acceptance of a proposal that came to us. It wasn't last night, was it? Night before last, right?
I don't think we accepted.
No. That we received. Did I say accept? That we received a proposal.
Wouldn't that be
Jeez, girl.
So why don't we put that on agenda item 6 under city school
That sounds
collaboration?
good. Yeah, perfect. So that would be my only recommendation there.
All right, and are we taking anything off the agenda?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay. All right, announcements.
Announcements, I do want to just let the board know that I will be out the first couple of weeks of August. I'll be out. So both John Stewart and Pat Burke will be back in swing, so they'll be both available to you folks. That's all I have.
Okay. And I'll pass this out, but I did receive on behalf of the board from our student representative, Sabina, a lovely thank you note recognizing her 2 years of service, so I'll just pass that around.
Actually, I'll do one more. I was going to kind of wait to the end, but we do have a birthday coming up, a special birthday in our office coming up on Friday, who's turning 60. Wow. So almost happy birthday to Stuart. So I'll add that into announcements too.
Well, as long as you're doing that, we'll recognize our fellow board member who also hit a red letter day, but we're not saying what it is.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Happy birthday. Great. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 6, city school collaboration.
So one is just a brief update that, again, Elizabeth and I continue to meet with Kevin and Pam McKenzie from the council. We do have a meeting coming up on the 15th at 11 o'clock to kind of continue our conversation and a follow-up to the to some of the things that are currently going on with city and school. Obviously, the proposal will be one thing that we'll talk about. In addition, also, Dan Fleming and Chris Shaw have been working and put together some information around kind of our combined capital, the capital improvement plan, city, and our stewardship plan, and pulling some data together to help us with that. And I think we saw a preliminary the other night, but again, I think that's going to be really helpful as we move forward in looking at options, down the road and our fiscal responsibility. So, and then the other was the proposal that was received. And Elizabeth, I'll let you.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of you are aware in the audience, and this has been announced in the media, that we did have a presentation from a developer of Saxon Partners regarding a proposal for development in South Burlington City Center TIF district that included acquisition or purchase of the Rick Marcotte Central School. So a proposal was received by the board on Monday evening that would indicate a $7 million purchase price for the property. And as we indicated at that meeting, and we'll continue to indicate, that there's a lot of work to be done to really understand any consideration of that particular proposal, its impact on our students and staff, and the future of long-term visioning for the district as well. So there has been a plan in place for quite a while to reinitiate a long-term master visioning plan in the September timeframe. So to the extent that that may or may not be accelerated, I think we may have some conversations next week with during our regular meeting with the city. But honestly, that time frame was kind of earmarked for September regardless, and there was a significant amount of community input that would be sought in that process, and a lot of moving parts. So again, we're in receipt of that, and it's consistent with what some of the conversations we were going to be having about master visioning regardless. And that's about it right now, unless there's any specific questions. All right. Thanks.
The only other announcement I had is at your place, board, is information about the land development regulations. There's a period of time now that it's open for public comment. Oh. And the public input period is open now through August 5th. And so we may want to be paying attention to that. I know Martin has played a major role on that for us, but we may want to just be paying attention to what's in there. And obviously, we have some specifics to some of the safety zone language and other things that may populate that.
Was this something, Martin, that we had proposed a specific board response to?
My understanding is where we are, and that I'm glad that brought this up, is that I thought we were going to have our school attorney look at the language related to civic locations, including school, the language that Paul Connor showed us a couple meetings ago, or maybe it was last meeting. And I don't know if that's happened or what the status is, but we should probably do that during this comment period in case there's something we want to pass on as far as comments regarding the language. Specifically, the language, it's the language that has to do with the school, and if you need me to point out what language it is, I'm happy to do that.
So maybe we can just connect and make sure we're,
Yeah.
what we provide and what we want to be reviewed would be.
But I believe we all agreed that that was a step
I think we were
after.
going to have some legal review.
Right,
And
right.
I did anticipate there might be at least some board-level response during the public comment period here.
Right.
Okay.
Which we will then probably need to take up on the 30th
Okay.
at the next
So
meeting.
I'll connect with you and making sure we got that right. Thanks.
Good. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 7, the Vermont School Boards Association resolutions.
It's in your packet, probably towards the back of it. And I know this is the work of, I think Martin put some of this together along with Diane, perhaps. And so I'll turn it over to you, Martin and
Yeah.
Diane.
The one resolution that we have to take action on tonight has to do with funding of Big Picture program. Specifically, if a student from outside of South Burlington comes into that program, right now we have a limited number of slots that we're allowing to be open for that because money does not follow a student going to the Big Picture. This proposal would have such a program that's unique, like Big Picture, that draws students for very special purposes, that in those situations money would follow the student if they come from outside of the South Burlington district. Now, I think this one's pretty straightforward. There were a few others that were raised at our last meeting, and I've had the opportunity to talk with the Nicole Mace at the Vermont School Board Association about how to approach those other suggestions. I think most of them came from you, Elizabeth. And the thing is that I'm part of the resolution committee for the VSBA, and we're going to be meeting on August 18th to go over resolutions that have been submitted by sponsoring school boards. And with respect to those particular proposed resolutions, the resolution committee essentially has to pass them on to the whole membership. There's a membership meeting in October of all the VSBA, and they vote on all of these resolutions. But the other thing the resolution committee does is it comes up with its own number of resolutions. And the fact that I'm going to be at the table at that time, it might make sense, or we thought it might make sense, for me to bring those up in the context of that committee as opposed to the school board, so that we can kind of gauge the interest of the other 8 committee members who represent, across the state, and get some more support. So for those, we talked about health care and what Green Mountain Care will mean with respect to health care for staff and teachers. And we also talked about financial impact of proposed legislation. And we also talked about whether there were any kind of resolutions that would potentially affect the bargaining position of the association versus school boards. And I think in talking with Nicole Mace, it makes more sense that those are things that we talk about at the resolution committee, in large part because the healthcare issue is associated with negotiations and bargaining table issues, and that's already something the VSBA is very interested in and is going to be involved in. The other one was that we've talked about is school safety zone. And that probably makes more sense to bring up at the resolution committee because there already is one resolution involving shooting ranges within 500 feet of schools. And there could be other safety issues that could perhaps be wrapped into a consideration of a resolution from the VSBA. Now, the whole concept of the resolutions is that the VSBA it goes to the legislature in January, or actually even before January, and tries to influence what the legislation is that's being considered. So they're the school board's lobbyist in many respects. So the final question, and this is an issue before we vote on this one resolution, is whether we should have a broader resolution related to money following the students. And I don't know if we resolved something. I know I talked to Elizabeth about this a little bit, on whether money should follow any student in open choice. And I haven't drafted a resolution yet. I can go ahead and draft one for the next meeting. We'll still have time. We can still vote on a resolution next meeting. If we all think that that's something we should do, then I'm happy to draft that. And the downside is that the upside is we're taking a very narrower approach with big picture and having money follow. Maybe this is a foot in the door, but do we want to instead go for the whole ball of wax?
Isn't big picture unique to South Burlington? And so what would be the motivation of the VSBA to accept that resolution for one school? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, the VSBA will, this will be passed on to the membership in October for voting. And we'll make the pitch at that time that there could be other unique school within school situations that we don't know about, for one. There might be something else out there, and we'll learn that. But down the road, it would open up the opportunity for these kind of special circumstances. That's why I think we can get other districts interested in supporting this.
I think using language such as the big picture school, and pointing out things like the personalized learning plans and the proficiency-based graduation requirements. I think that's the direction the state is moving to. So, I think some of those things might help it go through and be of more interest to other districts.
It seems that at least what has been coming before the board as a more immediate concern is the fear of the big picture program not being sustainable if we cannot accept students from outside of the district who also pay for that program. And that's why this is perhaps, frankly, my approach would be to push this one this year and just really try to get this resolved, and then take on the bigger issue of Act 129 subsequently, rather than doing both. But I'm open if you all think that we should go the other route and try for both.
In the conversations that Martin and I had, because I was really a proponent of the broader brush, and really looking to reverse the legislative change that was made with Act 129, because the intent of it was to broaden choice, but specific to students who want to come to South Burlington, it's narrowed that choice. And the reality is that there are not a lot of schools like South Burlington that attract the number of students that we do and would from the Chittenden County area. So the issue of Act 129 is a little more unique to South Burlington. So I did think Martin's proposal of focusing on a more narrow initiative, with also, I think, the potential, as I look at this, I'm aware that I know Essex has some, I don't know if they would consider it a school within a school, but like an arts academy, I believe, and there may be, it may encourage more, I'll just speak countywide, more countywide innovation that's geared at student proficiencies in the future, if there is a funding mechanism where there can be some silos of expertise within a concentrated geographic area where the funding would follow the student. So I agree that I think we should go with a more narrow approach this go round.
There is I mean, I'm in support. I think this makes good sense. There is an awful lot of past dialogue around the vocational education programs, and as Elizabeth mentioned, their flexibility is far greater than those that are not. And so the idea has been to say, why can't we operate kind of in our own mini vocational? But the law, they're very clear that you can't. And we've challenged that in some levels in the past to no success. That may be another arm that comes out of this as well, to say, why not, when, you know, the Arts Academy or other vocational type programs are there. So there are other competing components here out there.
Okay. Any further discussion on the resolution as proposed? All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, Martin.
So we'll, you
Need to
folks
shape it up and-
shape it up and ship it out.
Or whatever.
course.
I don't mean it like that. That's what I was going to say. Just, yeah, get it ready to be sent out.
Thanks.
Maybe you can help us with what format it needs to be in, though, since you're on that.
Just like this, just needs to be.
But
with
no
our-
red.
With, yeah, without the
Yeah.
strikeout
I
and.
just wanted you to see what the changes were,
Yeah.
so we put in
Yeah.
different colors.
Good. All right, Agenda 8, I think we have an update, David, on this one.
So the VSBA, in their desire to continue to work and train with school boards across the state, put out they definitely recognize, and Elizabeth and I have been trying to go to as many as we can. It happened to have been all year long, or a good chunk of the year on Wednesdays, and it happened to coincide with board meetings. So obviously, we were successful in a couple meetings, but it really posed the question for us is, like, how could we do that? And we did have that conversation with some of the folks at VSBA. More recently, Harry Frank, one of the folks at VSBA who does a lot of the policy governance and board training, put out a kind of a request to do more, on-site kind of training, coming to, and then while here, air out to others that could dial into that same meeting to have some collaborative dialogue. So I thought he would perhaps be able to make it tonight, obviously not. What he did say, I did talk to him again on the phone today, and he's very happy that the board has put together some topics and suggestions for discussion. What he would like to do is vet those through others as well, and then say, okay, this is a very prevalent topic. Why don't we do that at South Burlington? We devote about 45 minutes of our agenda, and that opens up conversations for both this board and for others to call in around, could be ends metrics and measurements, and how is everybody else doing that, and then opens up that conversation, as one example. So he's in the process, as you know, of collecting that information from other boards. It is going to probably be difficult to do it between now and, the end of August. I think our capture month might be in the month of September or October, where we actually kick that off.
So my understanding is our commitment would be to kind of host one of these meetings. There'd likely be folks present as well as some virtual participation, and it would be geared around a specific topic.
Right.
And then our role would also be to choose to participate in other sponsored meetings.
Right, and that likely would not maybe be on a Wednesday night. Obviously, it would be on a different night of the week where we could, perhaps through a webinar, folks could dial in and be available to, in a conference call, be able to participate in that board related item. Is my current understanding of what the desire is. Again, I think they were a little bit frustrated in that, that it's difficult to get folks to come, and there was a lot of good discussion when folks were there, but it was not widely attended.
So will he be at the next meeting?
He cannot make the 30th.
Okay.
And I didn't go out the next one out with him, but I will try to do that. It would be nice to have the conversation with him in person, to hear our items. It would be nice to hear from what else he's collected, I think, for you folks. And
Will he likely have a list of topics?
I think so. I mean,
if we could at least check on that or see where he's at with that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the superintendent report.
So I have I have a couple things in here. Obviously, before I turn it over to Susie and Pat for a brief update presentation, verbal. I did inform the board about, that we had applied for a full service community grant, again, trying to bridge outward communication and connection with our community. Not really sure that our likelihood of getting that grant, but I did want to inform you about that. And then Building Bright Futures, which is a large advisory council for early childhood education that goes up through basically birth up to 6, 7, and 8. And so they did ask me to be on this advisory council, and I just wanted to let the board know. I did ask, in the spirit of time, how much time would be required. It's quarterly through the year, so there's 4 meetings that they do, and I haven't officially said yes yet, but they certainly would like to have me on that. And again, it's not 100% mandatory every meeting, but I just wanted to let you know this is part of the governor's. Governor has to appoint these positions, or these individuals to the positions. So I wanted to let you know that.
And has the grant actually been applied for, David?
We did submit the grant
Okay.
End of June here, end of June, and to meet the very beginning grant deadline. So just that we're interested in applying. Again, fairly competitive grant. But again, my idea here is to help us make these additional connections with our families as they have children coming through our system, and they hope to better prepare them for their kindergarten, first, second grade experience. I will certainly give you that draft of that information so you can see it. Again, I don't want to get hopes up. There are large numbers of grants that come available. This one, it looked like it was fairly fitting for us. So,
yeah, and just for the rest of the board, in David's and my routine one-on-one meetings, I did express concern about diluting, and this is kind of consistent with having recently completed the superintendent evaluation, but really diluting your time and efforts. I think all of this is good work. I think our mission in delivering a public school education in South Burlington is focused around the K through 12 program. So even though this may be very important work, I have a lot of concerns that it may compete with priorities in our current programs and in current initiatives, and that it also might dilute some of your time in a leadership role. So I have expressed that concern, and David is aware of that.
So where's this going to go here now?
well, again, first of all, you have to be notified that it's going to be moved forward, one, and then if it's going to be moved forward, then there's some additional pieces that need to be done. So there's not been a significant amount of time to date, and so I just want to be clear about that, and I'd be happy to, in more detail, perhaps, once you get a chance to read it, you might see the connection to some of the critical work that we're trying to do in the district.
So the action here is that you will provide us with
information
the
about
scope and
yes.
things of the grant?
Yep. And not lastly, but happy to have both Pat and Susie here to talk to us about, again, a really important part of our work around helping our kids be successful in our system, and making sure that they have pretty important people in their lives, and the mentors certainly have been that. I know Susie and I and Pat have had some shares, and I think even school board members have had some shares around some of the really emotional connections that folks have had with the students, and it's left, I think, our mentors quite emotional when those students say pretty exciting things about the relationship that's been formed. So without further ado, Susie and Pat, welcome.
Thank you, David, and thanks to all of you for having us tonight. And it's a great segue to give thanks to the mentors who are here tonight, representing the program, Anne and Diane and Susan. And then we're also lucky enough to have Benji Thurber from Mobius, and then Patrick Leduc from our advisory board, and Matt McNeil from Howard Center, our assessment expert. And Patrick and Matt will actually give the presentation, but we thought we'd start by putting a face to the program, if you don't mind, with a slideshow.
calming music, bro.
Yeah, that's very nice. I think we should
Relax.
have all board meetings with
Wonderful
that music
pictures.
in the background.
Just the right volume.
And then I'll turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you. I'm kind of in a meditative state. Thank you. Those are great pictures, obviously. And again, I'm Patrick Leduc. I've been involved in mentoring for probably about 19 years now in various forms, and a mentor for many years, and then involved in advisory boards for a number of years. And I work at VSBA as my real job, so I'm very invested in helping young people pursue their passions through life in all these forms. And mentoring is a great way that we can all help in that. So really quick, just kind of grounding us also, what is South Burlington Mentoring? It's a program that you all support, and the Howard Center helped us get started, and Mobius plays a large role in supporting. And we match up caring adults from our community with young people that the guidance departments largely suggest that might be benefiting from a mentor, and then they spend time together. It's sometimes just that simple. They play games, they do crafts, they talk, and this builds those sparks that we talked about in these young people. And it's really a powerful, powerful program. We just completed our third year. So we started in 2011, 2012, and we had 20 mentors. And now completing this year, we've ended with 49 mentors this past year. So we've had very thoughtful and logical growth, being very careful about that as well. As much as we want every kid to have a mentor as soon as possible, if we go too fast, things will go off the rails a little bit. So we're being very thoughtful about that. And we started in grades 1st through 4th, and now we're in kindergarten through 6th grade. So we've moved up through the middle school now, and we're doing that with the help of a transition team that works at the middle school with us as well. So that's a very thoughtful process. And the mentors stay with their mentees, so that relationship moves forward. So I mentioned the Howard Center and Mobius, and I just want to mention them one more time. Without their support, this program wouldn't work. Howard Center was really what helped us to get this moving. And now, that's through the MOU process, that is transitioned directly to the South Burlington School District. So it's solely on the South Burlington School District, and that transition has been very smooth. We are very, very grateful for the support of the South Burlington School District, and we appreciate everything that you all do to help that. We're also very thankful for the administration, the teachers, the counselors, all the school staff. As you'll hear from Matt and some degree, and if you look through the comments in the report, the mentors and the mentees are just, they have every possibility that the staff can make for them to meet. They have space available, they have time, they have things to do. It's entirely, everybody engaged in this is helping in an extremely positive way, so we're very grateful for that. In some of the logistical things, we're maintaining our budget process very strongly. Susie, as our coordinator, administrator, is doing a great job. We're also doing fundraising, and that has taken the form of book fairs at Barnes & Noble, an annual giving campaign that we've just started, and our gala this past year, which I think was attended by more than 100 people. So a very successful program helping us move this along. So let me stop there because I know you have a full agenda, and I know Matt has some very interesting data as well. So I'll let Matt talk about the 360 survey.
All right. Should I come up there, Susie, or should I shout from the back?
Whatever works really for the board.
Come halfway. How about that?
Meet you halfway.
Hello again. I'm Matt McNeil,
yeah,
Director of
I think
Evaluation
Do
from
we need
Howard
a
Center.
mic?
Yeah, you can be maybe right there, Matt.
We've got a mic, so, yeah.
Should I hold the mic there?
You can put that up.
So for the second year, we conducted a comprehensive survey evaluation of South Burlington mentoring.
Can you hear okay?
Right. So I'm going to give you a few highlights about that right now. We had 2 goals in mind for the evaluation. The first is to get confidential first-person feedback from the 4 stakeholder groups involved in mentoring. That means the mentees, the mentors, associated school staff, and the parents or guardians associated with the mentees. So our survey had 4 central areas of focus. The first is to see how much relationship building occurred between the mentor and mentee. I think you went one too far right there. To the extent social and emotional learning was evident. The third one was just the communication within the program. And the third is just about quality improvement, just overall in terms of the functioning of the program itself. So we didn't pull those areas out of nowhere. We had some rationale for choosing them. The first was the connection to the South Burlington Ends policy, specifically about citizenship development and personal development. The ENDS policy is a very cool document. If you haven't read it, it's on the website. We also tied the evaluation to what we know is currently successful for other mentoring programs in terms of kind of current research. And the last is we're always looking for quality improvement, ways to kind of ensure the sustainability of this program. So we got 43 mentees to respond to the survey. And this first query that we gave was about whether or not they just had enjoyment of the program. And as you can see, a staggering majority of kids did. 95% reported they enjoyed spending time with their mentor. Another question we asked was whether or not they looked forward to going to school in the days they were going to see their mentor. And so we're hoping this question relates to whether or not a child wants to get up and go to school, and hopefully there's a correlation between that and attendance. There are several other questions that we ask, which are in the unabridged report that you can refer to as well. We also asked them to provide one-word descriptions of their mentors, and as you can see, there was a lot of positive report back, high indications of positive relationship building. My favorite was "she's the best." We got 39 mentors to respond to the survey. The questions we asked not only were about the benefits to the mentees, but about benefits to the mentors. And 97% of mentors felt that their involvement in this program made them feel more connected to South Burlington as a community, which is great. Can we go back one more, Susie? What we know about mentoring is that the longer a mentor-mentee relationship exists, the better it is for the mentee. And so you want to make sure that the mentor is also kind of following along, and having an enjoyable experience. And so 90% of the mentors who responded to the survey reported that their experience was more enriching over time, which is great. They were also asked to provide narratives on what they thought was working and what they thought might be improved. And so there's tons more information in the unabridged report, but I thought a couple of these quotes were pretty great. The appreciation received by the school, and that they view it as important and provide the space and succeed in any way possible. I think is a good indication that mentors are feeling the support from school staff and school personnel. 11 parents or guardians responded to the survey as well. And the first question we asked was about whether or not they felt like their student or their child was getting a positive impact to their life from being involved in the program, and 90% agreed that they were. We also asked parents and guardians whether or not they felt like their children were seeming more motivated to attend school on days they were going to see their mentor, and almost 73% of parents or guardians reported that they were. So again, we're hoping that correlates to positive attendance rates. 68 associated school staff or teachers also responded to the survey, and 98% of those respondents reported that they agreed that this was a program that benefited the social and emotional learning for students. It's tough to get 98% of school staff to agree on anything, and so we were very happy with that number. We also know, too, the impact that scheduling has on teachers and how there's so much that's tried to get packed into every school day, and so the fit was an important consideration, and 83% of teachers reported that the mentoring worked for their school day, that it wasn't a problem for scheduling. And again, here's some great first-person feedback from school staff. The second quote really speaks to the fact that school staff are seeing the value in these relationships continuing from year to year, which has been a big success of the program. So just to try to tie it all together here at the end, I'll give you some overall highlights. The response rate of 161 surveys is amazing, and I think you learn a lot about the evaluation from kind of the robustness of it. So just to give you some perspective, the Department of Mental Health every year puts out a consumer satisfaction survey to all children who receive mental health services. Last year they got back 534. So this one mentoring program here in South Burlington got a response rate of almost a third of what the entire state does for their satisfaction service. I think that itself shows a lot of buy-in. The other thing is that the results of this survey, if you compare it to last year, are almost identical. So that means with the rather large growth you had this year, the quality has been maintained. My own personal indication of how people feel about a program is how much they write in the narrative spaces, the blank spaces. And let me tell you, people wrote a ton about this survey. It's really interesting to go back and read that. The last thing, there's a ton of questions about the coordination, how the program is run, and how the program is led. And let me tell you, it is super glowing. Susie maybe not put that part in here, but I promise you if you go back, they really praise her leadership and her communication and her overall kind of positive environment she creates for all the mentors involved. So there's a ton of more information. If anybody has any questions or wants to refer to it later on, I think my contact information is somewhere embedded there, but I'm happy to follow up at any time as well.
Thank you. Well, we thought if you had any questions, you should please feel free.
Any questions from the board?
I just had one quick question. You mentioned a few times regarding school attendance and effects on school attendance. I mean, is it compared to, I mean, are the children who will enter the program, have they had an issue with attendance? Is that something that, I mean, that you're comparing? I mean, if they're excited about school, that's great, but is it really affecting what's not really a problem, or is there an identified attendance problem?
So we do ask a more specific question about that because attendance is not an issue for every mentee. And so we do ask teachers whether or not they actually saw a change in attendance over the course of the year. And so the numbers are not as big as you'd expect them to be for that reason, because for some mentees, it wasn't an issue to begin with.
No, I think all the board members have had an opportunity to hear anecdotal information, Susie, certainly throughout the year, about the mentoring program. And my own take is it fills a gap within the district that we're seeing an increased need and maybe some unfunded mandates that sometimes come down from the state level that social services tend to get administered at the school level without a lot of resources or funding. And what I've evidenced is that the mentoring program is filling a gap for students that have a need, and also it's fulfilling an area that the board has always made a priority, which is engaging the community. And I hope that we can continue through your efforts and all the mentors out there to bring more mentors into the program from the community. Thank you.
Thanks. Just one question.
Yes, Diane.
The mentoring ends in 6th grade. How is that transition? How do you handle that transition of the relationship kind of ending? And
But it actually will keep going.
okay.
And so this year, those of us with 6th graders last year will just come back for 7th grade. And I've received permission from the advisory board to pursue a vision committee to do what we did when we transitioned from 5th to 6th grade, only this time we'll do a 2-year process so that when our mentees get to 9th grade, we'll have a plan in place for those young people as well.
Okay.
So just so I understand,
Yeah,
can mentees join this program at any grade level, or do they have to
that's a
start
great question.
at kindergarten?
They can join at any grade from K to 7 this year.
And if you don't mind, let me augment to that answer. This is a school-based program, so this all happens inside the school walls, as it were, for lots of good reasons, especially at this age group. One of the challenges that we will be tackling over time here in the next 2 or 3 years is, as you move into the high school, that may become less ideal for the relationship to really be growing and be doing what we want it to do. So those are some questions that we'll have to ask ourselves down the road, is what is the best format as they move from children to young adults? How do we make this continue to be successful? Because we are forming relationships. And to some degree, you're going to lose control over how you manage it, because now it's a relationship. It's not a program anymore. But those are things that we want to very slowly and methodically think through so that we're doing it correctly.
I wanted to just end maybe by giving gratitude to Anne and Diana and Susan. They have all been in the program at least 3 years, and some for as long as the program has existed. We're very lucky.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 10, executive limitations policy monitoring. And I think we're not taking action tonight, but just by way of an update, we have completed the evaluation of the superintendent, and we're coming up with some objectives for the upcoming school year right now, and those will be finalized probably at the next meeting on the 30th. Any other comments?
No.
Okay.
I appreciate the feedback the board's given me. Thank you.
All right, we'll set the agenda for the July 30th meeting.
It is in here somewhere. So we probably can, I'm not sure where I'll be with those information from Harry, Frank, on the kind of legislative or your board discussions and opportunities for training.
So maybe we can just put that under the superintendent's report.
Yeah,
It's just a VSBA update.
Mm-hmm.
Any other recommendations or topics that should be added or deleted?
So we're doing treatment of community as a group, is that right?
So this one is actually out of order a little bit, because there was a violation, that was that came forth, and so generally, and we'll need to talk about this as I think a good policy governance question. Obviously, if there's violations that occur that I recognize happen, then I don't think it necessarily needs to come before you and break the cycle of the schedule. However, this was a particular one that I think needs to be brought to your attention for a variety of reasons, and so I think it's important that it's updated in that perspective. So again, I want to be careful not to be putting, every time there's a situation that is a violation, you don't have, you'll be doing monitoring reports. I hope not a lot, but you could, and I don't want to set that precedent. But this is an example of that, and I've talked to Elizabeth about this, as well.
So we're actually doing it at the last July meeting and then again in August, according to our schedule?
Well, again, we could defer that a little bit out. Again, we haven't rearranged the schedule.
Yeah.
We could, or we, again, I hesitate to wait to August, and I just think that.
That's fine. I'm just
So,
Yes.
This is your first August meeting. Because we had to change the date.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's consistent.
July
with-
30th is our first August meeting?
Yeah.
We had to change the date because.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I got it.
Actually, we did that
Thanks.
at the previous. That's right.
Okay.
Thank
so
you,
related
Don.
to that, in this big calendar, are we gonna go with the same assignments that we had last year, or are we gonna change those around, or what?
We agreed that we would do it as a group for 6 months.
All of them?
Yeah.
For 6 months.
For 6 months? Okay, thanks for reminding me.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
I don't like it.
Actually, I'm sorry, there was at least one more thing we talked about. Feedback on the
Oh,
form-based
yes.
code.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to be sending an official communication, maybe it's an action item as well.
And that would be fine to meet your August 18th
August,
deadline, right?
August
August
5th. No,
5th,
that's
yeah.
the resolution issue. I think we're fine with the
Yeah.
resolutions after
Yeah, I
tonight.
think
There's
we're okay on the resolutions.
unless somebody comes
But
up
we
with
have
something
we
else.
do have an August 5th for public comment
Right.
back, so that would be the form-based code.
Um,
Put that on there.
And do we need to plan on further discussions regarding the proposal that was presented at the steering committee meeting? I mean, do we need a kind of
I
a
think
little
I think
understanding
you'll
of?
I think we'll have that update in the city-school collaboration, because we will have
Okay.
had
Sorry.
at least one meeting between the city manager and the council chair. And the discussion that we had agreed to was really next steps on the master visioning.
Right, okay.
Is there anything from the future agenda items that have 4 checks by them that we might, even in a report? I mean, everything doesn't have to be a presentation.
I think master planning and visioning, since that's tracking along there, that was likely to be more defined, and I mean, that can come off because it's going to happen. I don't know.
Can we get the fundraising prior to the start of the school year?
Yeah, we're close on that. We're really close on that right now. Again, I want to be careful not to. I got to check with John and his committee that worked on that, but I know they're really close. I've gotten some updates.
So, and what
I
is
think we could get that one on.
And what is the SB Schools Foundation update that we're awaiting? We just kind of got a little bit about that.
Well, we never got
Recently.
financials.
Yeah, we're waiting on
Financials.
That was some of the
Okay.
follow-up.
All right.
So if
We
we
should probably
could,
define that.
Yeah, I
if we
would
could
notice
move, so it looks like we can take master planning, financial stewardship off, but it's gonna, off the future agenda items, because it's gonna start to show up and be discussed within the context of the city-school collaboration. We're gonna try to get fundraising on for the July 30th meeting, and we're just gonna clarify that the foundation was the financials primarily.
Right.
And which meeting, Elizabeth, for the foundation, the
we-
July 30th?
I don't think we have a
The
meeting.
We don't have a
Financials.
meeting, we just defined it to be SB.
It was
School
just
Foundation
clarifying the
financial.
definition of it.
Okay.
It's
What's
financial.
the date of our second August meeting, Delina, if this is our first one?
20th, August 20th.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is, it's,
Is that a change from the regular schedule?
no, that's the, I think
That's back on
those
track,
ones.
the second one.
Thanks.
And just to, I think we can take off board self-evaluation at this meeting because we're doing it now. Can we do that? That's every other meeting, right?
Mhm.
All right. Any, on future agenda items on our current agenda, I think we've talked about this already. Is there anything else we need to add or delete? All right, we'll move on to considering the minutes of the June 11th meeting. Any comments or changes? Seeing none, those are approved. And the June 18th minutes. And seeing no changes, those are approved. All right, we'll move on to the tax anticipation note, and this requires action.
Correct.
Do you want to run through that in lieu of John?
It's in the blue folder for some,
Okay.
so several
Let me just take a
items
look.
in there.
You have several things to sign here.
Do we need this?
So again, typical form, the tax anticipation note is to cover the cash flow needs for the district for the period of July 15th through September 5th. And again, this would provide the district with sufficient funds until the first tax payment that will be received from the city. We recommend that the school board approve the bid by People's United Bank for a tax anticipation note for this period, for the amount of $3 million at an interest rate of 1%. We received two bids, People's and the Merchants, and so we're recommending the People's.
Do I have a motion to approve the administration's recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the lease financing bid.
So also in your packet is the lease financing bid. So again, this, for the lease financing, it's several items, as John has alluded to here in the information to you. Municipal leasing consultants out of Grand Isle is who we've used. We've used them for quite a good number of years now, again, 7 years or more. The recommendation is that we accept the bid provided by municipal lease consultants on behalf of SunTrust Leasing for computers to be repaid over the 4 years at an interest rate of 2.29%, and for vehicles at 2.49%, for a total combined interest cost of this lease of $25,649.93. Again, in your packet, there's information that needs to be signed if you approve. Also, once this is done, then the legal document will be drawn up and reviewed by Steve Stitzel, who does our legal work in this regard. This is under our our budgeted amount by about $5,493. Again, I don't know what other specific questions you may have.
Any questions? I had one question. I don't have the responses in front of me, but it was really about the work with municipal leasing consultants, and do we ever have to bid that out, and do we have to work through a leasing consultant?
We don't have to. Again, I don't know the exact answers to those. My understanding is there's not a lot of other folks that do this work in Vermont. I think this is one of the few, if not the only. They're widely accepted and used in our work. We do not have to bid that out. We are required to bid out the components of both, anything that exceeds our amount. So we can use those, the consulting firm, to do the work, which we've done, again, as I said, for I think 7 or 8 years now.
Okay. And just for the rest of the board, the order of magnitude of compensation to municipal leasing is about $500.
Correct.
So do I have a motion to approve the recommendation to accept the bid for lease financing contingent on a legal opinion and a credit check by SunTrust Leasing of Maryland?
So moved.
Again, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Great.
passes.
Thank you.
All right. And we have a number of hires and a number of bids all on the consent agenda.
Yes. So you have some hires in here. I won't read through all of them. Again, you do have the summary sheet that is provided. Again, the busy time of the year, filling positions. As you know, you've approved those retirements. We've had a good number of them, particularly here at the middle school and at the elementary school. So you see those hires coming up in front of you, as well as with the information about their hire. In addition, we also have bids for the elevator here at the Rick Marcotte, here at the Frederick H. Tuttle School, that's actually putting up a brand new elevator in that very front vestibule area. As you know, it's a result of the older, more problematic elevator, and it does not meet ADA compliance. And so this does that, and this money is coming from our unused bond fund proceeds that were repurposed by the community. In addition, also the playground at Rick Marcotte Central School, again, a major fundraising event that went on with the PTO, and they have done just an unbelievable job and have put forward a proposal, and we have a bid in here that's we'd like to ask you to accept, and then also the roof bid. So those are a quick summary. I don't know if there's any particular question. If you wish to take one off the agenda, you could. But again, that's what's before you.
If the bid for the elevator is approved, when does that work start?
Right away, actually, right away.
With the kids in school too?
Well, again, it's not totally, there are some safety, our hope is, yes, to have it done. There would be some safety considerations if it's not done. Obviously, that we still can get students who have a need and staff to the second floor, because we currently have the redundant elevator. We obviously would have to be mindful of safety zoning and equipment work and time work and all of that. But our hope is to have it completed.
And my understanding is the elevator bid is coming under the budgeted amount.
That's correct.
$357.9 versus the $395.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I submitted a question on the Chamberlain roof restoration. The original RFP went out for both roofing and the metal fascia, or I don't know how you say
That's
it.
right.
And my observation of the bids that were received, it was that the combined bid for the recommended Teamcraft roofing was actually $94,830, and the combined bid for rod roofing was $88,650,000. So the combined bid was lower with rod roofing, and I just had a question as to why those items were being separated on this recommendation.
Well, first, we wanted to stay within the allocated amount, and therefore the Twincraft, is that what I'm saying that right? Teamcraft fell within that. When the fascia was added to both, it exceeded the amount, and so therefore that was the determining factor. The fascia, again, is not it's not a critical part of the roof as far as leaking or any of that. It is obviously a tie together and aesthetic effects as well. So again, that was understood that we could take that and complete that work ourselves. And again, I think John alluded to that also.
So this recommendation is really predicated on the $60,000 that was allocated in the repurpose bond.
Correct.
And that allows us to stay under that allocation for specifically the roof restoration, but we'll have to either delay or come up with something else on the
That's correct.
fascia.
So if I understand it right, then David, you're suggesting that the district with its internal resources will do this fascia work?
Or look at how we do that. Again, the most important part of this is that we need to do this roof. This roof is overworn.
No, I understand.
Yep.
No, I've got
And
that.
so with the amount of money, again, we have some, the nice part about our facility stewardship plan, we do have a cost escalator in there, and we need to bump that up a little bit. And we've had a few that we're getting close to our amounts, and so we need to up that a little bit more on our looking to the future amount. This takes care of the integrity of the roof, upgrades it, and we either will do it internally or we will do some level of subcontracting at a rate in which we can afford within our other funding mechanisms within the budget.
So would it still be being paid for out of the bonded money, or would it?
The roof project would be done, the roofing would be done out of the bonded amount, which would be under. The other amount to do the fascia would be either funded out of our local budget under repair and equipment alliance.
Okay, and then I had
To be determined, I guess, then.
Right.
And I had a similar question on the playground bid, that the recommended vendor is not the low bidder. And then I know that phase 2 is indicated it's not under consideration, but I would also note that the combined proposal is about $33,000 less with the vendor that's not being recommended. So I guess I'd ask the same question.
Sure. So first of all, with the money raised, phase 1 was the main focus. Obviously, when you go out with different vendors and you ask for, you're going to get different responses. Obviously, we were very aware, the committee was very aware of the type of equipment that they were wanting, and actually used one of the more local vendors who had similar, had the kind of the information. That person obviously bid, and it is slightly more than the other bidder. However, there's some different things in there. Because of the difference in manufacturers, there were some things that were different and missing or left off. Again, I don't know whether it was missing or left off. But I think most importantly is that the desire by the PTO was to have very specific equipment for the playground, and the other vendor, who was slightly less, I will just say less, did not meet all of that criteria. There were different things that were substituted or not there. Climbing wall, the height of a tower was not the same, and so that was one factor. The other factor was the other lower vendor had a requirement that if not enough volunteers showed up or qualified, then there would be an upcharge for bringing additional staff. And there was a pretty significant upcharge for bringing additional staff to do that work. And from my perspective, and again from John, as well as the committee, this particular situation led to the person that is being recommended to you today. Again, I think definitely right now the volunteers are extracting, taking out or helping to take out. Our insurance covers that. So that's same for both. The lower bidder required volunteers or that pay. That was a concern certainly for myself and for John, where we do, again, it's likely they would have staff that would be watching, but certified staff putting things together was an important component on risk avoidance. So that's why you have the bid in front of you.
So it sounds like the recommendation is really based on meeting the committee's specifications,
Number one,
as
yep.
well as the potential upcharge and risk associated with installation and a requirement for volunteers.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think I know the answer to this, but this whole structure is able to be moved.
Yeah, most structures, nowadays are able to be moved. That's one of the things that happen, that you're able to do that. I wouldn't say it's easy. I mean, there's dismantling. It's cumbersome, obviously, but it can be done, and they do that with that in mind. Yeah. Thanks, Julie.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The
Thank
motion
you.
passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to agenda item 17, any questions or comments on AP orders 48, 49, 1, or turning points 83? All right, seeing none, we'll move to our self-evaluation, and I think, do we have forms for any community members, Delina, that want to? Okay, if you're interested in evaluating this meeting, we'd encourage you to fill out a form.
It's one of the things the board's asking for, a little more feedback, so.
And we'll just take a minute to do that, and our clerk will collate them. Oh, Sue, yes, sorry.
If I may, I'd just like to publicly acknowledge the walkers from Rick Marcotte Central School. They almost single-handedly, I was just looking back in my notes, they led the charge for a new playground over a year ago, and they have have spent countless and tireless hours seeking no fanfare, seeking no identification, but really committing to what I think is a school treasure and a community treasure. So I would like to publicly thank and acknowledge Elizabeth and Matt Walker.
Excellent.
And that may have enhanced the Saxon Partners offer for Rick Marcotte Central substantially. Do you want to collate them now, or?
I can report back. I can report back since there are more.
Later?
Next meeting, do you want to hear about it, or do you want me to go through them now?
Yeah, why don't we hold off, and we'll get a board report at the July 30th meeting. So if we could add that to the agenda, that would be good. Yeah, I was going to say add it back.
Well,
Great. All right. If there are no other topics, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.
thank you.